Good morning, friends that are here. Good morning, friends online, and good morning, friends who are all throughout this universe. I have one announcement for you this morning. We will be having a retreat here titled The Pilgrimage of Life, an Exploration on Birth, Aging, Sickness, and Death, which will be run by Soma. It is a Dana-based retreat that will occur here Friday, April 26th from 6:30 to 8. Saturday, April 27th from 9:30 to 4:30, and Saturday, May 4th from 9:30 to 4:30. If you would like to attend, you may sign up online, and please bring a lunch with you for that day. Thank you so much for your beautiful practice.
Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas.
Hi, friends. Soma and Venerable are on their way back from Charlottesville today. Venerable was speaking at a church this morning, and then they were making the 6-hour drive back today, so she'll be back. And she'll be back until Thursday or Wednesday evening. And then she is leaving again for Colorado for another event, Venerable is. I'm happy to be up here and speaking with you guys today. And I was thinking about what to talk about. I was a little surprised by what came up for me, actually, because it was the four immeasurables. I know we've talked about this a lot, and Soma has taught on it. In fact, she just taught on it in Black Mountain at Social Sangha on Monday. And she speaks of the four immeasurables a lot at the monastery. And oftentimes I find myself feeling just a tiny bit dismissive of it, to be honest. I'm like, yeah, right, four immeasurables. Yep. But what is kind of coming up is the importance of perfecting each step, and especially the foundational steps. And this is one of the most important ones that I have recognized deeply that I have not perfected. So I thought it would be helpful to talk together about the importance of this, how we can actually carry it out. In the Dharma practice that I do every day, I end it with saying, through my cultivation, may all beings be happy and have the causes of happiness. So I'm saying this, but how does that actually look other than saying it and wanting it? So I've been really contemplating deeply on that and felt it was worthwhile to talk about together. I noticed that it's very common in human life to skip steps. We want to know what the end game is, and then we want to get there. There's a meme on social media that has really stuck with me because it's true to me. It's a modern Buddhist meme. Has anyone seen it? There's this stair skipping meme where this guy is on these stairs and one leg is on the ground and the other leg is like 5 steps up. And the levels that he was skipping were renunciation, refuge, bodhicitta, and he was going right to meditation on absolute nature of mind. And isn't that kind of how we do things? So another thing that's really been standing out to me about these four immeasurables is the way that the Buddha master has, and other masters have spoken it, saying, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. Now, that leaves infinite levels of refinement and consideration and really wisdom and discernment in how to do that, how to help actualize that aspiration with other people. Yeah, in the Mahamudra of Liberation, the part that I say is, I will day and night focus my thoughts on carrying out the four immeasurable states of mind. As we know, and I've talked about this before, this is another line that really sticks out to me from the Mahamudra of Liberation, but the 12 divisions of the Tripitaka and the Dharma of the esoteric scriptures taught by Shakyamuni Buddha can be summarized in just two words: cause and effect. To transform those two words, there are these 5 words: continual shifting the mind practice. The beneficial effects from those 5 words are these 6 words: loving kindness, compassion, wisdom, and unhindered mastery. This is the usefulness of all of Buddhism. So just really recognizing the value in perfecting this. I also was present with how the whole Dharma really is present in those 4 lines. In order to really, in order to put this into practice well, you have to have an understanding of impermanence. You know, that we have in Buddhist understanding, we have many beginningless lifetimes. And so our goal is to think beyond this one life. That's another thing that it's hard to do, actually, because we're very caught up in the day-to-day of this life, of course. So intentionally thinking about the next lives that come is important to really have motivation to put some of these things into practice, and deeply understanding the sufferings that come with that. And one is just, understanding the nature of suffering, just deeply understanding the nature of suffering. Joe has talked about that some, that sometimes we don't really understand how permeated our days are with difficulty. So we have a way, we want to get a way out of that. We want a way out of that for ourselves, and we want a way out of that for everyone that we love and all beings. So along with that comes the understanding of cause and effect, which is huge. And Buddha Master started with that. He said the whole Dharma can be summarized into those 2 words. And then understanding that beings, starting to penetrate the fact that beings have been our family members and loved ones in prior lifetimes. So what I've been understanding is, again, the need to deeply understand some of these things. There's the mind level understanding, and then there's the deep knowing. And so that's what we're after. So when looking at may all beings be happy and have the causes of happiness, again, what are the causes of happiness for myself and others? Knowing that every action of body, speech, and mind has a corresponding effect. Every single one. And that we have to create those causes. Another aspect of this that I'm understanding is so necessary is the alignment of our body, speech, and mind. I think I was talking to Noni. She does body work for us a little bit, and I was talking to her yesterday about how challenging it is oftentimes for us to just be in our bodies, to be present in our bodies. She has talked about how in her work, working with people doing body work, the minute she starts encouraging people to be in their bodies, sometimes they just kind of check out. They're just like, nope. There's a lot of vulnerability there. There's a lot of conditioning there. There's a lot of memories there. So we tend to avoid it. I know I do. I know I have. Staying busy, distracted, possibly numbing. Sound there. So I've recognized the value of visualization and mantra. Really, these methods bring you into alignment if you let it. The visualization, really just experiencing what the visualization is bringing up, being in it, being of it. And then the mantra, using your voice. So two ways that I was thinking about that help with the alignment, or necessary for the alignment of body, speech, and mind, is in our actions when we're out in the world. And we might have an intention or an aspiration to do something, or to help someone, for example. And we might do the thing, we might give the money or be kind, but in our mind, maybe we have a judgment, or we're thinking of how it's going to affect us. That's not necessarily aligned in your 3 karmas with your aspiration. So being very this requires us to be so mindful, of considering in every moment whether our intentions line up with our actions. And then in Dharma practice, being present and embodying the aspiration, allowing us, like, not just saying the words, but really feeling the qualities of the Buddha and the Bodhisattva, whoever our Yidam is or the Buddha is. We're experiencing those qualities. And if doubt comes up, which it will probably, maybe we can consider what would it be like to embody those qualities? Maybe, so just setting doubt aside, what would it be like? What would that feel like? How can I embody that, truly embody that? So stepping out of the way, really, our doubting mind, stepping out of the way. As part of this kind of alignment, some of the things, some things are helping me right now. Singing and drawing. I'm taking a drawing class, and it's really kind of cool how everything is lining up. And Kadara and I and some of the others are also doing some singing lessons. And I'll start with the singing, and Kadara might want to say her experience with this at some point. But there's or Joe, there's this method that this guy is teaching us where you just, the very first lesson, I've only done the first week, but he talks about how you just breathe in and sigh out. And a lot of even our vocal training, we're forcing, we're pushing, we're using muscles that we don't need, which creates less of a beautiful sound, more force, more difficulty, a little bit harder to reach our goal. And so he's teaching us to kind of relax and use our breath. And he talked about, and Kadara mentioned this, but he talks about how with physics, there's force and there's an equal and opposing force. So if you're pushing against a wall, the wall is pushing back at you in the same amount of force. And just really being mindful of non-resistance and ease in the singing process. And you can feel that once you set your mind to it, he's teaching you. So when you let it go, you can be very powerful and very present and very effective and beautiful even sounding, or not, but that you can sense the lack of force back. You're not getting that resistance back. It's beautiful. So it's such a good lesson for me that I'm taking and applying to the Dharma, and how I approach the Dharma, because I have often used kind of force and efforting that Venerable talks about. So how to kind of have that ease and flow and trust. With drawing, it's a very similar thing. I was just reading in my drawing book this morning. My teacher says, trying to skip levels of development only slows you down and creates frustrations that jeopardize the achievement of your goals. To accomplish anything complex, 3 essential elements are required. First, you need a plan or an approach. Second, you need the knowledge to put the plan into effect. And third, you must have the spirit to carry it through to completion. And he talks about just really kind of studying, not copying, not trying to be something else or someone else's expression, but really analyzing, looking at, studying, having understanding the qualities of what you're looking at and what you're drawing. So I did a still life, and I was looking at like the texture, the way the light is shining on it, how it is in relationship to the other objects, really understanding its placement, and then trying to apply the gesture, the flow, the sense of it, the qualities of it. All these things are really helping just to more deeply penetrate things instead of staying at the surface and trying to get to the end goal, understanding things more deeply. Also, the four immeasurables are antidotes to things, and Nagarjuna says that the mind of love extinguishes anger in the hearts of living beings. Practicing the immeasurable mind of compassion extinguishes all sorrows and anxieties, and the immeasurable mind of joy extinguishes sadness and joylessness. And the immeasurable mind of equanimity extinguishes hatred, aversion, and attachments. So I love that idea of antidotes. When we're experiencing anger, being able to immediately shift our mind and finding a place of love and understanding. So I'm seeing that one thing is necessary to lead to the next thing. These attitudes require some understandings and right view of impermanence and the nature of suffering, and then the effect, cause and effect. And now I'm seeing that in order to actualize cause and effect in a proper way, that's where precepts and vows come in, and that's what Venerable's been talking to us about a little bit recently also. And seeing and understanding and appreciating at a new level the 3 comprehensive purifying precepts. Those are helping us to have happiness, really. I mean, they're helping us to have happiness and move away from selfishness and feeling that we need to protect and defend what we believe is separate and that needs to be protected above all else. So, using those precepts and vows and this understanding, how do we walk it out? How does this show up? How do we actually do it? This requires, there's no one answer. There's millions of subtle answers that can be applied depending on the circumstances and where we are and where the other people are. But just some of the things that I was thinking about are, we talk about being the change, really understanding that it starts with us and it starts with our own mind. So being the change, I've talked about this before, but just the act of making offerings, it's such a beautiful thing that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and teachers and sages gave us, because it's not for them, the offerings they don't need. This is really to help us cultivate and plant the seeds of happiness by giving us means and a method to practice generosity and practice non-attachment and really giving up everything up to and including our bodies and our friends and anything that we have a hard time letting go of. We can offer that in our minds and really feel that offering. Really give it away. You'll feel that. Don't just say it, but really feel it and do that. So, and then, in doing that, those seeds are planted and that is returned to us. We're not really focused on that. We're not doing it for the merit or for the fruits of the action, but we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And underneath, we know that it is, that it's benefiting people. I have been with Sada this week, Aya Sada, and one of the ways, she's shown me a couple different ways that she's been doing this, thinking about the happiness of herself and others. so she and her former partner had a house, and they're both getting older, and Oy is getting older, and she's probably not thinking, I'm going to do this so that they're happy necessarily, or I'm going to do this because it's I want happiness for self and others. But there's just an underlying goodness in her that helps her think ahead. So, she understands that once they're gone, their kids are going to have to deal with the house and the other things that might occur. So she's thinking ahead and has initiated getting the house in, creating a will and getting the house put in a will so that the kids won't have to worry about that when they're gone. So that's just a generous and loving thing to do that is going to help them, and that is also is part of her precept and vows. Another example that I thought about is that I have an attachment to sugar, and I will go back and forth on cutting it out and, trying to work with that attachment. And when I've been in a period where I am abstaining from sugar, Kadara has helped me at times when I was on the fence. Like somebody brought a cake or a pie or something, or there's cookies or something. I'm like, I'll just have one. She'll remind me of my vow. So, that is a way that she is helping me have happiness, because she's helping me to plant the seeds that I want to plant. So that's her thinking about the happiness of others and their causes of happiness, not just hers. So she's thinking about really actualizing the happiness of others. If someone's gossiping or being divisive, a lot of times we're thinking, if you take out the causes of happiness, we might be thinking, oh, I want them to be happy. I want them to feel good. If someone's having a bad day, we might say, oh, yeah, they were really mean to you. You have every right to be mad, for example. That is, that might make them happy in the moment, but it's really not creating the causes of happiness. That's a subtlety that we really get the opportunity to reflect on. So sometimes that means saying hard things. Buddha Master demonstrates compassion in such Vajra ways. He cuts through. Sometimes Venerable will do the same. Sometimes they say the hard things, and sometimes it's hard to hear, but it's really out of the utmost compassion, because it's helping us. It's not saying, oh, it's going to be okay, you're doing just fine, if we're not doing just fine. Sometimes we need that harsh, some feeling correction. And if someone's gossiping or being divisive, again, that's planting for them the seeds of their own suffering later on. Another thing I've been thinking about is euthanasia. I used to have a different opinion of euthanasia, where I felt like I was doing something merciful by helping end, the life of a pet when they were really suffering. And now I don't necessarily know, but I'm questioning that a little bit, because I'm understanding more now that the nature of cause and effect is that, if we do something, there's going to be a corresponding effect. Maybe not in this life, but in another life. And one of the ways that we purify that karma is by bearing it with patience and understanding and right view. So if the animal is suffering, it's very difficult for us to see the animal suffering, but perhaps that animal is completing some karma that is only going to benefit that animal, so it won't have suffering equal or worse in another life or another time. So it's complicated sometimes. We have to really think it through. We have to think about, now, what is best for this person, not just how I feel in the moment, being able to pacify it. I think Tonglen helps us in a lot of ways move away from that type of selfishness and taking on the suffering of others is great practice for this. And the Buddha master in the Mahamudra of Liberation says his mindset and practice is, and he says this is the essence of the Xing and state practice. This is the essence, is that I bear all the negative karma and karmic offenses committed by living beings and give to you all of the good karma and merit that I plant. So he's giving us something really important right there about helping us. It's so often the exact opposite of what we think we should do. Sometimes that's my cue. I'm like, what's the opposite of what I think I should do? Maybe that should be considered. Really bringing in and taking on all that suffering can actually benefit others and ourselves. Anybody else have any examples that they want to share of thinking about or actualizing in real life the aspiration that beings have happiness and the causes of happiness?
Well, so it's approaching the perfections from a perfectionist standpoint. Like everything, like looking at, how am I looking at this? Do I have the awareness of how I'm approaching it? Because if my modus operandi is to make sure I've got it all right, it kind of defeats what the intention is. So just becoming more aware of that, and that, and sometimes I just spend a lot of time on wanting to get it right. This is how I should do the offering, and I need to make sure I've got all the steps. And I came up with, this is all of the things I need to do. And, and having an awareness that that's part of my self-grasping, and that self-grasping is always there. And then just a quick question. I've been milling around with the idea of, okay, so if someone is suffering, and given that they're suffering, like with the example of the animal and euthanizing them, or a person that's suffering, if what is important is for that person to experience, I don't know, I guess with grace, you might say, experiencing that suffering, realizing that that is actually burning up bad karma. Why would I be wanting to take suffering away from someone? So that's where my mind is with that. And I also think of that from the standpoint of when somebody is having an issue or whatever, the whole idea of enabling. So that's not simple for me in my mind either. So those are a couple of things that,
That's right. Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I can identify with wanting to get it right. And that was part of what encouraged this reflection today, was that experience. But it was keeping me in my head and in my old way and my ordinary way of thinking. I need to do this right. I need to do all the steps. So what I actually have done personally is stepped away from some of the ritual and have gone really into my heart, like really deeply. When I'm doing, when I'm paying homage, I'm taking time really to visualize and experience and know the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, to have gratitude, to feel them with me. So just really focusing on the embodiment and the sincerity and the patience sometimes, not rushing through, but taking a lot of time. And sometimes that's just with the preliminaries, but just really feeling it in my heart. And that's the three karmas thing that I was talking about. That's helped me just to slow that down and to really focus on bringing it in, because that is my default. Yeah, and your other point, I agree. I mean, those are things that we get to think about. I mean, that's so much of what this is when we're thinking about creating the causes of other people's happiness or the lack of causes of their suffering. That happens with, offering a diabetic candy We want to make them happy, that they might even be asking for it. That makes them happy. We feel good seeing them happy. But is that creating the causes for their suffering? Maybe. So, these little things we get to think about. Aren't we so lucky that we get to understand some of these things so that we can make wiser choices?
There must be something. Now, there must be something in the water.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the same place for some time, weeks, and I don't know how long. I've become totally overwhelmed with the intensity of my practice, the time that I would put in, the detail, the exactitude, trying to do everything the way we're shown to do. And my motivation, nothing has changed in terms of my goal, my motivation. But I don't want to do all the practices. I'm tired of it. And I thought about Jacob's ladder, which I always, from the Christian, climbing the ladder, not all rungs are equally stable. And if you get your foot on a rung that isn't stable, you move quickly and get off of it. Or if you're on a mountain path in the Himalayas, sometimes it's wide and easy, and sometimes it's so narrow that if there's nothing but the drop off and rocks, and you have to take a different course. You can't just mosey along, because now you've got to look at where you're going. And so I consider this rocks in my narrow path right now. This rung that's not so stable. And I realized that I was the one that set the rules for what I must be doing in my practice. And I'm not holy. I'm not, I don't have to follow my rules. So I gave myself permission and to only do the parts of the practice which are very meaningful, the saying of the precepts and the characteristics and the vows and that sort of thing. But if I don't feel like doing my practice, I don't do it, because doing it wasn't real anyway. I was frustrated when I was trying to. I wasn't there. It was hypocrisy. But on the other side, I have been much more mindful, much more aware of my cultivation, much more aware, studying, doing a lot of studying. And it's taken me away from the head and it's much more to the heart. And so there's this guilt about not doing what we are supposedly supposed to do in practice. And at the same time, honesty that I'm accepting I am where I am. Nothing is diminished in the goal. But I think I'm becoming more true. I think I'm moving. I feel like I'm at the edge of a very major shift within me. I feel the shift coming. Don't know what it is, but I feel that a lot of the hurdles I've been trying to overcome may be easier overcome if I quit worrying about them. I don't know if I'm making sense in what I'm saying, but I don't have the answers. I just know to let it rest for a while, not try to be perfect, what I think is perfect, which is an illusion, and just let myself be and really watch the rocks and be slow and careful and just really focusing on cultivation
Thank you.
and those the daily vows, which are just part of me, but not some of the other practices. And it's like, I've got a million other lives to get it. Which is a joke because I don't want a million other lives, but it's like, don't try to be one of these people that goes to the fair and sees how many hot dogs they can eat to win the prize.
Mhm.
Just be okay with it and know that they are not, that they are with me just the same.
Mhm.
And when you asked about taking away suffering of others, I really think that if there were no bodhisattvas, that no human being would ever be able to escape. That the karma we've accrued over the millennia is so deep that unless the Buddhas and the bodhisattvas take some away from us, we could never crawl out. So that's my appreciation of the bodhisattvas. They are our saviors. Without them, we're not saved,
Mhm.
even if we try 100%, because the karma is bigger. That's just my thought.
Yeah, we're not alone. Not doing this on our own. Just a short press unmutes it. A long press turns it off.
So I really appreciate this discussion because I feel like I must have been, there's got to be an energy because I too have been really thinking about the immeasurables. It's not that I don't have them in my head, but for them to come forward as strong as they have in the past couple of days is really interesting that you're bringing it up now. Right now, I feel that my Dharma, because it's embodies so much of my life, is like playing a game of chutes and ladders. Um, I can be tripping right along so beautifully and feeling so comfortable and so confident. And then an issue, which all that is a situation and an issue. And I have a substantial one coming up that tomorrow um, will really get me back in that trip trap under the bridge, right down the rabbit hole of fear and control. And how that still can encapsulate something for me until I can go and do something that's truly cultivating an action that has nothing to do with that situation, release myself from any self, and feel that benefit. I saw a meme that I thought was quite interesting, and I didn't mean it to be or see it as trite, but it said, if all the thoughts that I have transpired into bubbles over my head, there would be some trouble. And it's not trite for me because I think all of us have to pop that bubble of illusionary thought that traps us on in the fear, the doubt, whatever somebody's is. But to be able to pop that bubble of illusion before it goes anywhere for me really did actually mean something. To surrender to the level of control of I don't have the ultimate authority or control over situations. I can't make somebody's suffering or anger dissipate or disappear. All I can do is in my own locus of control. When you can do no harm, don't make it worse. Do what's of the greatest benefit that you can control and have to truly surrender the rest of it and say, this is just how it is right now. I feel like right now, I don't know if anyone remembers the story of, and this was very strong visually for me. I don't remember who it was. I don't think it was Noah Ziegert. It was not. Tied to the mast on the boat, but desperately wanted to hear the sound of the siren. So he told his crew, blindfold me, leave my ears open, tie me down, and let me hear the sounds of the beautiful sirens. Because if I see these sirens, I know that that's it. The waves will take me crashing to my death. I have no idea why that suddenly came up, but the recognition that I'm the one tying me down to that mast, and I need to take that blinder off and hear that those sirens are really just Mara. Those sirens that are screaming at me are only that bubble that I need to pop before it comes. There are no sirens. The waves aren't crashing or thrashing. The fear and the level for control is just that thought. But what I have to do is take the step off the 100-foot pole and mast and recognize there are no sirens. The waves aren't crashing you into some island or some danger. There's just waves, there's just sounds. And this is all just how it is. And I know a lot of that sounded very swirly, but I appreciate being able to express that. And I recognize that this is teaching me a great lesson that I need to learn about what my hindrance is. And the joy of Chutes and Ladders is that no one ever really wins that game, because it's not about winning. It's just about the next move.
Thank you.
You always have such helpful images. So this image of we have a thought and a bubble appears over our head and everyone can see it. That's going to be a new image that I take with me. That every thought that I'm having appeared and everyone can see it. Now that's a way to regulate our minds, right?
Thought, and how embarrassing and hard it would be if someone knew what your fear was, what your shame was, what you were, whether it be, I wish this person would be quiet, or are you kidding me, or something else. But just, yeah.
Yeah. But one thing that when I practice, when I recite, right? Because this is how the practice takes shape. We recite the 4 immeasurables as part of our preliminary practice. One of the things I've taken to doing, and I think I picked it up in a Lam text or something like that, is to add an action to the end of each one, because that brings it home for me. That makes it real. When I say the action, I can actually envision myself in my day, the day that's coming up, having that aspiration and really trying to walk that out with who I know I'm going to see. Maybe I'm going to go to a tennis clinic or whatever it is. So for loving, may all beings have peace and happiness and the causes of peace and happiness, and may I always be the cause of the happiness of others, right? So may that be front of mind for me as I'm interacting with others. May I be the cause for their happiness. And then the second line comes right along to say the opposite, which is, may all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, and may I never be the cause for the suffering of another. The third one is, and there's variations on this one, but sympathetic joy. May all beings be free from suffering, and may my own heart be glad about that, and may I freely demonstrate that. And I use the word freely as an antidote to the stinginess and the withholding that we can have sometimes. We often judge. Someone's so happy about something, and we often judge. Well, they shouldn't be happy about that, or that's dumb, or something like that. But to really freely get past all of that and just really, really be happy for their happiness, and demonstrate it in some way. And then the last one, may all beings stay far away from greed and anger, have endless generosity, be equanimous and without bias. And may I model that. May I model that. So, and again, sort of imagining myself walking around in the day that's coming, that I'm going to be in once I, get off the pillow this morning. So it helps me to add an action at the end of each of those to make it real. Otherwise, it's just too easy to recite and not get anything really from it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Exactly what we're talking about.
Getting back to the what to do for someone. Maybe they're in their karma and whether or not what to do, what not to do. And, I haven't necessarily thought about it in that way as far as their karma, but definitely times where, it's probably not best for me to step in here. But I got to admit, it's not a lot of times it is, I don't want to. So in distinguishing that from, my own concerns versus what is actually best is something to consider.
Perfect. Yeah, that's our default. Like, do I want to? Am I comfortable? Is this good for me?
Exactly.
So it just helps us to take that next step, to think about others. And then eventually you're looking at others before self. I mean, that's the goal. Another example that came up for me is just managing conflict. If there's a situation where there's conflict, and the option to drive all blames into one. If someone's angry with you or something like that, you can say, okay, this is my karma being returned to me. Thank you for delivering this karma. And it's probably difficult for you to deliver it. And I'm aware of your suffering, and I honor the fact that you're bringing it to me. So you have compassion for them. You're patient, understanding that this is not personal. It's just what it is. And then the other option is to actually go this step further, to take on the suffering of the other person or other people and send out love and ease. Buddha Master talks about how we know where we are by just how we're actualizing these with the people that we are closest to, the people that are in our family, the people that are in our house. We can find out where we are, really easily. He gives an example that I'll share with you in a minute, which really humbled me. And this is what's helped, to understand where sometimes, as Suka was saying, we have to kind of back up. It's so good, though. I mean, there was this worldly understanding that you need to achieve, but then you start to get the wisdom and understanding that that's not it. And if we haven't gotten the foundation, the fundamentals, then we need to go back and perfect those. And it's okay. I mean, in this is everything. It's not just the beginning. It's all of it. So I shared this at a recent retreat in regards to conflict. I think it's great, but it's called From the 8 Verses of Training the Mind. And these are just 5 stanzas that I think were helpful. In my every action, I will watch my mind, and the moment destructive emotions arise, I will confront them strongly and avert them, since they will hurt both me and others. Whenever I see ill-natured beings or those overwhelmed by heavy misdeeds or suffering, I will cherish them as something rare, as though I'd found a priceless treasure. Whenever someone out of envy does me wrong by attacking or belittling me, I will take defeat upon myself and give the victory to others. Even when someone I have helped or in whom I have placed great hopes mistreats me very unjustly, I will view that person as a true spiritual teacher. In brief, directly or indirectly, I will offer help and happiness to all my mothers, and secretly take upon myself all their hurt and suffering. So you're not saying, I did this, This is something that's very personal, but effective. You're breaking down that self-cherishing aspect of yourself. And that energy, what I'm learning is just how powerful our thoughts are, and the energy and how those things manifest. That's not nothing. Just, we're talking about walking it out, but there's also something about on the cushion and those true, deep felt aspirations for other people and their happiness. And that also has a resonance and it has an effect. I have a couple things that Buddha Master says that I do want to share. I think he does let us know that when we're visualizing, we talk about differentiation and non-differentiation a lot, and that can be a little bit confusing, because I think that's one of those areas where I kind of jump to understanding the nature of everything, or of emptiness. before I've done the progressive steps to get there. That's unrealistic. You have to start with differentiation before you can get to non-differentiation. And the same is true in how he says we practice this by starting with ourselves. And that can be a big one for some of us, just really starting with true loving kindness and compassion for ourselves and acknowledging whatever pain or suffering is there without trying to hate on it or resist it or get rid of it, but just acknowledging it, letting it be there, understanding that it comes not necessarily just from this life, but from many, 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 many lives. This karma has come. And so now we've inherited it in this particular existence, in this particular life, and we have a choice in how we respond to it. We can be loving towards that experience. And again, what I'm learning is that how important that is to really authentically and sincerely being able to offer that to others. So starting with ourselves, we have to be differentiating. And then from there, he encourages us, and many other masters encourage us to start with the people that it's easy to love. Start with well, I shouldn't say that. The people that are closest to us, and sometimes that are easiest to love. Because if you're starting with someone that you're struggling with, you're going to feel some frustration, you're going to feel some resistance, you're going to feel some difficulty. So really developing that ability with people that maybe aren't as difficult or challenging, to extend that too. And then gradually moving to a place of non-differentiation with all beings. He says that a lot of times cultivators will start with all beings. They're like, oh, peace and love, and it's all good. I love everybody. But they're not demonstrating that with their own family or with the people that are closest to them. He calls that inverted cultivation. And you can see the danger in that and the ease in which we could fall into that. So he's really encouraging us to be very, very clear with ourselves and honest with ourselves about where we are and what needs attention. So he says that we enter this practice in stages, as I said. If we are not able, he says, if we are not able to apply the 4 limitless states of mind to our family with our 3 karmas of body, speech, and mind, then it is impossible that our application of the 4 limitless states of mind will produce any beneficial effects. He says, even if one of our karmas does not carry out the 4 limitless states of mind, it cannot be considered as carrying them out. You can see how refined you have to be. He says, if you're unable to cultivate the mind of non-differentiating generosity, which I love, in his way of describing equanimity, non-differentiating generosity, it's not necessarily like all flat. It's boundless goodness, and it's wanting the best for everyone at the highest level, all the same. He says, if you're unable to cultivate the mind of non-differentiating generosity, you will not generate real states of mind with regard to the other 3 states of mind. And that he says from non-differentiating generosity, the others are naturally going to arise. I was talking about embodying this. There's a statement in the sutras, a line from the sutras. Here, monks, a disciple dwells pervading one direction with his heart filled with equanimity. Likewise, the second, the third, and the fourth direction. So above, below, and around, he dwells pervading the entire world everywhere, and equally with his heart filled with equanimity, abundant, grown great, measureless, free from enmity, and free from distress. So again, just the fullness of that experience, the felt experience. We hear a lot about manifestation these days, and I don't know if you guys notice this, but it's everywhere. So one of the things that I like about that idea of manifestation is experiencing the desired thing as if it was already occurring. I feel like there's a lot of that kind of method in Buddhist practice. And you think about it, like if this is something you want for yourself, you have to know that it's possible. If you want to embody the qualities of a Buddha, feeling what that is calling it into being. That's kind of what this says to me. It's you're experiencing that fully, without doubt, and without enmity and distress. He talks about how in even in Buddhist circles, there's so much sectarianism. We're talking about non-differentiation. This lineage or sect has got it right, but that one doesn't. Or you can reach, the goal here, but not here. You can see just within that, within Buddhism, how easy it is to fall into differentiation. And so that's one of the things that I really appreciate about these teachings, that they're helping us to really understand and apply and cultivate non-differentiation. I mean, you just have to, it's everywhere right now. You look at a comment thread, you're wrong, I'm right, that's ridiculous. It doesn't matter how benign the comment, it's going to call up some resistance from someone. So you can see that's the cause of our suffering. Can we lay that down? Can we see ourselves and others? And another thing that helped me see where I am and to understand how far we can go with the four immeasurables is Buddha Master in expounding, they went back to the word expounding the absolute truth of the Heart Sutra. He talks about the practice being divided into 3 stages. And just like with impermanence, he talks about the practice really being staged. Generation, completion, and oneness of generation and completion. And Buddha Master says we should at least accomplish the completion stage, but says to reach liberation, we must realize oneness and completion, because that is the Bodhisattva state. And then I want to just give you this story, this example that he shared that helped me see where I was. Might help you too. But he says, listen carefully as I explain entering the generation stage of the 4 limitless states of mind. You yourself are able to know when you enter the generation stage. If when seeing other people on the verge of death, in pain or suffering, or in the midst of disaster, or if when seeing other people in fortunate circumstances with wealth and honor, or experiencing happiness, you can generate feelings of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and non-differentiating generosity from the bottom of your heart, and can put those states of mind into actions, that is the generation stage. The completion stage is the perfect state established upon the foundation of the generation stage. The generation stage has to be there before you consider achieving the completion stage. So he says, now I will talk about one limitless state, which you can compare with your own state of mind. Suppose that when you are walking down a street or traveling down a road, a car suddenly runs over a person. The person run over is a young man. The age of this young man is similar to one of the members of your family, such as your brother, child, or any other close relative of yours. As a result of being run over, one of his limbs was maimed. His arm or leg was broken. This tragic situation made you cry your heart out. At that time, many people gathered around the young man watching him. All of them were saying that it was so pitiable. Of course, upon hearing what they said, you also felt very sad, even though it is not a member of your family. Since you are, after all, learning from Buddha, you know a bit about basic loving kindness and compassion. However, after watching him for a while, you went back home. As you walked back home, you were still thinking, it is pitiable. He was run over in such a horrible way, yet he did not die. He is also all by himself. Who will take care of him? Of course you had such feelings. Then, after returning home, you totally forgot about him, having cast your thought of him somewhere beyond the sky. When the time came for you to have a meal, you became hungry. You then began to eat, wolfing down your meal. This type of state is an ordinary sense of compassion. It is not the compassionate mind of the 4 limitless states of mind. The compassion called for in the 4 limitless states of mind has not entered your 8th consciousness. You are falsely compassionate. You have pity-based compassion that living beings in general have. Suppose the person injured in that accident was your own family member whose age is similar to that of the injured person. You would then be able to look inside yourself and see your sorrowful state of mind, your sad mood. You would definitely not be indifferent. I dare say that having seen him be run over by a car, it would simply not be possible for you to eat after returning home. You might sit there dumbfounded. If it was an important family member or a close associate of yours who was run over, you would then experience your agony. This also illustrates the differentiating mind of an ordinary person. If a family member of yours were maimed to such a tragic extent, you would not be able to bear it. You would be sad about the future of your family member. Thus, sad, stray thoughts would arise in your mind. You might even be unable to fall asleep at night. At such time, you would be in a great hurry, riding your bicycle or driving your car all over the place as you rush around asking others to come to the rescue. You would think of every way possible to turn around the situation. Therefore, you would be willing to undergo physical toil, hunger, and fatigue. You would act at all costs. If you have truly generated the four limitless states of mind, then everything they do in their treatment of others should be like everything they do in the treatment of themselves. In all matters, they should treat others as if they were treating themselves. This is the reality state of the four limitless states of mind. Gives us a measure. And really, it comes back to like what Jesus said, treating others as yourself. A simple way to consider our actions. So I wanted to actually practice a little bit of visualization and meditation of these states and combine a little Tonglen practice today. But before we do that, is there any other questions or comments? Because we will end with this meditation. Sure. Just keep one of them on. So this is a meditation that combines the immeasurables as stated by Buddha Master with some aspects from Lama Yeshe and his discussion of the four immeasurables. So first, we're just going to get comfortable, our spine erect, feet flat on the earth, eyes closed or almost closed. Put your hands on your thighs, chin slightly tucked, your tongue on your upper palate behind your front teeth. Bringing all the energy of the world, past, future, all into your body right now, fully in your body, relaxing any tension. You can take a deep breath in, and on the out breath, visualize the energy of your body connecting deep into the earth. Becoming aware of the present moment and the current condition of your mind. And as we go through this, we are going to try to keep our energy and our attention fully in our body, fully experiencing what we are envisioning for our own happiness and the happiness of others. Take a few minutes to follow your breath in and out. We'll begin by reflecting on the disadvantages of the self-cherishing thought. Thinking the self-cherishing thought does not allow me to obtain liberation and enlightenment, or the happiness of future lives, or even the moment-to-moment happiness of this life. It is the greatest obstacle to achieving happiness and realizations, and to doing perfect work for other sentient beings and myself. Sentient beings are suffering in samsara because they are under the control of anger and attachment that discriminates some sentient beings as close and others as distant. Our prayer: may I, my friends, and family members forever stay far away from a mind of greed and anger, and may they abide in non-differentiating generosity. May they forever break away from the mind of an ordinary being that has the hindrances of greed, anger, ignorance, conceits, doubt, and so on. May they cut off their attachment to their eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, and destroy their attachment to forms, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and objects of mind. May they abide in the state of non-differentiating generosity, abiding in the state of emptiness, where all phenomena are equal, abiding in the essential emptiness of the three times. While you are contemplating this prayer, do the Tonglen practice, thinking about how your loved ones suffer because they are under the control of discriminating thoughts, such as anger and attachment, and how this makes them create so much negative karma. Right now, your friends and people you know are going through so many problems and so much suffering due to being under the control of the discriminating thoughts of anger and attachment. They suffer and endure these problems their whole lives due to these discriminating thoughts. First, there is great mental suffering and then physical suffering. We take all this anger and attachment on ourselves, along with all the problems caused by them. Take on the true cause of suffering and the true suffering, the two obscurations. Take this right into your heart and onto the self-cherishing thought. It is the self-cherishing thought that causes everything undesirable that you and others have to experience, and interferes with the success of all your wishes and those of others. So take all the problems and sufferings caused by your discriminating thoughts of anger and attachment, as well as the anger and attachment of others, into your heart. Think they enter into the form of pollution and destroy your self-cherishing or ego. It actually becomes completely non-existent. You can particularly think of those delusions that disturb your mind the most, such as anger, jealousy, clinging, attachment, or desire. Mindful of how they torture you, never giving a moment of peace. Think how numberless other beings have to experience the same suffering. And in this case, yourself and your family, and take these disturbing emotional thoughts onto your own self-cherishing. Visualizing them in the form of pollution, you absorb them into the self-cherishing thought, the I that you feel inside the heart, inside the chest, not outside in the belly or the head, but right inside the chest. The I that makes you think, I am the most important one. This I, the most precious and most important one. This is the I that you care about most, always concerned that it might get cold, or it might get a headache, or it might get sick. You're always trying to protect this against something that might happen to it. Everything is absorbed into this and it becomes completely non-existent. It is like when you see a mirage. There is an experience of water in the distance because of the way the sun reflects off the hot sand. But when you actually reach the spot where the water should be, there's not even a drop of water there. It never existed. In the same way, the I that you have always cherished so much is completely non-existent right there. When you feel this non-existence of the I, that there is not the slightest trace of an I existing where you believed it to be, then you are seeing the emptiness of the I. Try to experience this as much as possible. In the space of where that I was, visualize much spaciousness and light that is completely unrestricted and boundless and stretching out to all beings. May I, my family and friends, forever be free from the myriad sufferings and the causes of the myriad suffering. May all forms of suffering be unable to touch them, including even the causes of suffering. With this verse, immeasurable compassion, again take on the sufferings and the causes of sufferings of your loved ones. Take on the whole package of sufferings that each being has to experience. Not just the sufferings themselves, but also all the causes of those sufferings, the delusions and karma. Take their sufferings right into your heart and think that this destroys the object of ignorance, the emotional I, and the self-cherishing thought completely. Now I and my loved ones have generated immeasurable great compassion in our minds, and rejoice. May my friends and family forever have the happiness of no suffering. May my heart be joyful of this. If any living being is in a state free of pain and suffering, a state of happiness, my heart will be happy. I will always be happy and joyful over that. After making this request, think that you receive all the qualities Shakyamuni Buddha has to be able to offer every happiness to others. Do the practice of giving. This time, give away all your 3 times merits and all the temporary and ultimate happiness, including enlightenment that will result from these merits. Give everything to your loved ones. Think that they receive whatever they need. May all beings be liberated from suffering in the stormy waves of birth, sickness, old age, and death. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy wrongdoing. In the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings.